If you're ready to maximize your potential and emerge from rough emotional times powerfully, then listen up. Today's show with our guest, Carol Cooke, will not only inspire you, but guide you with her strategies for harnessing the fearless forces within you. I'm Laura Rubenstein, your host and producer of the women's premiere show here at Women's Speakers Association. Well, hello and welcome, Carol.
Well, good morning from Melbourne and good afternoon where you are. It's great to be here, Laura.
It's great to have you. Now, on that previous slide, we saw all these medals in your hand. So I'm sure people are curious, and I know I am. Tell us about who you are. What is your claim to fame?
Well, I know I said I'm from Australia, but I'm Canadian born, but I've lived in Australia for 29 years, and I'm a Paralympian. I didn't think that would ever happen, but in 1998, I was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis, and it was in 2005 that I kind of fell into parasport. I was a master swimmer. I'd been a swimmer growing up in Canada, and I thought, oh, I wonder if I classify as a paraswimmer with having MS. And I did. And so I just started paraswimming. And the World Masters Games actually had, for the first time ever in 2005, Paralympic classes for swimming and athletics. So I went to the games as a swimmer, did really well. Paralympics Australia heard about me, thought I was about 25. I was actually 45, and invited me to a talent search day, which are for kids, with a disability up maybe to early 20s. And no, I just showed up without a child saying, yep, I'm here for the testing. And it was at that point they asked me to take up para rowing, which I did, and represented Australia for a couple of years in rowing, and then made the switch to paracycling and haven't looked back. I made my first Paralympic Games, which were in London in 2012 at the age of 51, and thought, wow, I've reached the pinnacle of sport, and then just kept riding because I actually loved it and became passionate about it, and have now been to 3 games. So I was lucky enough to win a gold medal in London, then 2 gold medals in Rio, and a silver medal in Tokyo.
Wow, congratulations, all the huge accomplishments. And it sounds like you took a devastating diagnosis and condition and really did something with it, to the point where you turned around the whole focus of your life to something that's more positive, engaging for you. So I want to know what advice you have for people watching today to how to harness those forces within you to emerge powerfully, to get through the tough times.
Well, I think my diagnosis was handed to me very, very badly. And so it took me about 6 months to actually come to terms that I was now living with a progressive chronic illness. And I was lucky I had 2 men in my life, my husband and my GP, who kind of set me on a straight and narrow path, with saying, hang on, let's find out about this first before you make any rash decisions. And after about those 6 months, I thought, hang on, MS isn't who I am. It's just something I have. And I got angry about it, and I guess pig-headed and stubborn. My mother will tell you I was born that way. But I actually thank her for reframing my thinking years ago, and telling me that if one road is blocked, there's always another path, and you just have to think about it differently. So it took me a couple of years, but I realized that I had a force within me that meant I could overcome any adversity or change in life. And I realized that we all have that force within us. And when I talk about force, I mean, be fearless and believe in yourself, because if you do, you can accomplish anything. Being original, because your uniqueness can create magic. Reframing your thoughts to build your resilience. Having the courage to take a chance on change, and embracing the positives in life. And I honestly believe if we do those 5 things, then you can do anything in this life that you want to, obviously within reason. but you can attain any goal that you have. You just have to look at what your values are, what your goals are, and put those strategies in place.
Yeah. And I am super curious. So you talk about being fearless, and that is maybe easier said than done. So what advice would you give to viewers who are, facing something that they're trying to reframe? They're trying to do I love the acronym, the FORCE acronym, to address their fear.
I think sometimes, like when I'm talking about fearless, I'm not talking about jumping out of a perfectly good airplane that can land or bungee jumping. Those things are just crazy. And to me, that's not being fearless. That's just nuts. I'm talking about, climbing that corporate ladder or taking that next step in life that you want to. And I think sometimes we are so consumed with the fear in our head that we make it much more than it is. So it's about taking a step back and saying, okay, what am I actually scared of? We all love staying in our comfort zone. And sometimes you have to take risk. And even people who aren't happy about the position that they might be in, whether that be a relationship or a job they don't like, or just not happy with life, they're scared. They're scared to take that risk because they think they're going to lose what they already have. In fact, you've already got there. You're not going to lose what you have. It's about saying, okay, if I take this risk, what could really happen? What are the positives that could happen against what are the negatives that could happen? And I think you weigh those against each other. And if you, embrace the positives in life, which is the last part of the force, then you've got to look that way. You've got to say, look, if it doesn't work out, then I take another road, or I go back to where I was and say, okay, maybe there's a different way of doing it. I always say to people, instead of saying, I can't do this, how about saying, I can't do this right now, but I can learn and educate myself and maybe get better at it. So I think a lot of the fear is in our head, and we build it up to be a hell of a lot more than it really is. And when we do take that step, we go, oh my God, what was I worried about?
Yeah, I love your reframing of fear, because fear can be paralyzing, but but what you're talking about is the reality isn't the worst case scenario. It's like, and even the worst case scenario isn't usually that bad. It's just fear likes to hang on, and if we face it head on, we can, like you say, harness our other parts that are fearless to help us through it, like reframing.
And I always like to look at a child learning how to walk. When we're learning how to walk, we haven't learned what fear is. And I'm taking this back to like the baby steps of fear. So we haven't learned what fear is, and we stand up and we fall down hundreds, if not thousands of times. And, sometimes we cry and sometimes we laugh, but we always try to get back up. We don't let that stop us. And eventually, not only are we walking, but we're running. And I think if we can take little steps and, the whole thing, even reframing, your mind to build your resilience, it doesn't happen overnight. And none of us are born with that. We just have to take little baby steps to learn how to do it. And if that means, for fear, if that means, oh, I'm scared to go up to that person and say hello. So if you want to learn to speak to strangers, take that step, smile at somebody. That's that first baby step. If they smile back, say, good morning. It's amazing the people you can meet when you do that. And that's teaching yourself to be fearless in the smallest little ways. And you just build on that to the point where one day you're going to go, okay, I'm going to apply for that job. I was speaking last night and I talked about how women look at a position description and they'll go, I don't have that. I don't have that. I don't have that. Oh, I have that. And I have that. Oh, but I don't have that. And I'm not going to apply. A man, on the other hand, goes, I don't have that. I don't have that. I don't have that. I have that. I have that. I don't have that. Oh, well, I'll apply anyway. It's almost like they've got this inbuilt this fearlessness that goes, I'll just give it a go. You never know what happens. And I think we have to start doing that. We have to start taking those tentative steps and say, I'm going to try anyway. And if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. And I try a different way.
Yes, I love it. It's very inspiring to hear, okay, I don't have to achieve the whole thing. And at the same time, it's not going to happen overnight. So a baby step is all right. It's okay to take a baby step. So we're reframing and we're talking to ourselves in a whole new way in order to harness this force, these fearless forces within us.
Definitely.
So tell us about the work you do. Who do you work with and what do you do with them?
Well, interesting enough, I'm trying to build my business, my speaking business, because I'm still in full training. I'm trying to aim for Paris next year for my last and final games. I've decided it'll be my last year competing on an international stage. I mean, I'll always still ride, but at 62 now, I'm still racing 26 and 30-year-olds, and it's getting hard. So last night, for example, I spoke at a law firm, and they had a session where they invited clients of theirs, and it was a session. They've got a whole series called Empowering Women. And so I went and spoke, and I usually ask the client, pick 3 of those. A keynote will be 3 of those for about 45 minutes. And so it was great because most of the women in the room were lawyers. And I found out they really don't like change. It was quite funny because I went through, they picked O for original, C for courage, and R for reframing. And it was funny when I got to courage, and the courage to take a chance on change. Sorry, it wasn't courage they didn't like, it was a change they didn't like. I talk about a butterfly and how it starts as, a caterpillar, pretty ugly usually, takes days to wrap itself. It takes ages to become this beautiful butterfly. And after I had talked about the courage to take a chance on change, I said, now who in the room here wants to make a change? It doesn't have to be in your job, in anything. Do you know, out of the 80 people there, 1 hand went up. And I went, well, you win. And I have these beautiful cookies that are butterflies. And I gave out 1. I took 15 with me and I gave out 1. And it was quite funny because it just shows, even one of their partners afterwards at the end said, you can tell we're all lawyers and we don't like change. So I talked to people who are scared of change, or companies who want to empower their clients or their employees to really, I mean, especially after the pandemic, everybody's so scared of how do we change things up? How do we get people back to work? How do we get them to be original and creative and, not be like everybody else and put in their own ideas? And so I'm loving speaking to corporates across, and it doesn't have to be men or women individually. It can be everybody. But I also love speaking to schools and speaking to kids, because they're the ones that we can mold for the future. And it's amazing how they suck in the information. And the kids actually come up with better questions than the adults most of the time. So it's a real wide range of people that I speak to.
That's awesome. Well, how can people find you? Where online can they do that?
Well, on my website, which is carolcooke.com.au. I'm on Instagram as CazCooke61 and Facebook just as Carol Cooke. Across the platforms. Oh, and on LinkedIn as well. LinkedIn is a big one for me right now.
Yeah, it's a great platform. Well, we love having inspiring speakers like yourself on, and experts and people who are doing, living that their work, and then are sharing it and impacting and getting the message out there. What is it that brought you to Women's Speakers Association, and what's the value for you?
Look, when I heard about Women's Speakers Association, I went, oh, I wonder what this is all about. And I just came on as a guest to one of the regular strategy forums that's online. And I met some really incredible women. And I thought, wow, look at what they're doing. And I thought, you know what? I want to be connected to these women. And so I joined as a premier member about a year ago now. And I've made some absolutely incredible contacts. And in fact, I was on one of the calls yesterday and met a woman, obviously virtually, who's in Sydney. And I'm going to be in Sydney in a couple of weeks. And so we're going to try and catch up for dinner face to face. And so it's really cool to be able to meet other women who are either trying to break into the speaking business or who have been in it for years. And just the information that you can get from them and the sharing that you can do is absolutely incredible. I'm loving it.
And we love that you're here. And for those of you watching who are inspired to check out Women's Speakers Association, go to joinwsa.com. You can do what Carol did and join as a premier member. Or if you want to put your toe in the water, you can download our Speaker Success Plan. And can you do that? But speakersuccessplan.com, of course. And we'd love to send you emails about our upcoming events, like our strategy calls, our networking events that we do every single month. And we do it in time zone friendly times. We have Australia friendly times and Northern Hemisphere friendly times as well. So I hope that those of you watching are as inspired as I am by you, Carol. And thank you for sharing your wisdom. Thank you for getting your message out there. That's what we at Women's Speakers Association are all about, is, we come together to collaborate and to expand each other's message. Even if you're not a speaker, maybe you're a writer, maybe you're a coach, maybe you're a therapist, you have a platform and it's with your clients. It might be on the stage. It might be in your home. So check us out. And thank you again, Carol. And I'm wishing you all the best in Paris.
Thank you.
Excited for you and for the rise of your speaking career here.
Well, thank you so much for having me today. And yes, for anybody watching, Women's Speakers Association has been incredible. And you do meet women from all over the world, which is just awesome.
Yeah, it's great to have you. And thanks again. We'll see you next time. Bye, everyone.